Hello everybody, happy Monday to you. Welcome to Mondays with Mike. I'm actually outside Fox 26 parking lot today because I just thought, I wanted to take advantage of the fact that the weather's actually pretty beautiful out here this morning. The sun is shining. We've had several days of some severe weather, a lot of flooding taking place. And so the opportunity that we have this morning to have some sun coming in and really helping to warm us up, evaporate some of the water that's around, and to help some of these creeks and bayous drain is really excellent. Just want to give you the latest on that. If you live near, let's say, Cypress Creek out on the west side of Harris County, Hockley area, that creek is running near its bank full. It's not experiencing any sort of major flooding, but it's definitely something you want to stay away from. There also have been some intermittent periods of time when we had enough rain to cause some flooding on the west and northwest side of Harris County, out to Montgomery County as well, especially west of the Woodlands, Magnolia area. So just be mindful of that, especially some of these rural, roads that sometimes can become covered in water. San Jacinto River, that west fork of the San Jacinto by Humble really floods pretty frequently. And there's just a little area there, low-lying area next to Highway 59 that can flood sometimes. So be aware of that. We also have the San Bernard River, which is south of Houston, around places like Sweeney and Bowling and East Bernard. That also is running out of its banks right now at minor flood stage. So we got all that going on. But like I said, I'm happy to say that for right now, get in the sun here. For right now, we're, looking a little bit better. Now, I do want to let you know that this afternoon, if you're watching this at 12:30, this afternoon on Monday, there is going to be another chance for thunderstorms. We're locked into a pattern here where we just have a ton of moisture in place. We have an upper level area of low pressure that's been, actually several of them, that have been spinning sometimes out in the hill country, sometimes down in deep South Texas, sometimes just off the coastline. But anytime you have lows, they can pull in a lot of moisture off the Gulf, and that's kind of what we had over the weekend. Was you get this tropical type of atmosphere where there's such deep moisture from the surface all the way up into the upper parts of the atmosphere. It's nearly saturated. And so when you warm up the air that's at the surface, it just pops. There's no cap in place that we often talk about. So, could there be more flooding for today? Yeah, there could be. So keep that in mind if you are going to be driving around after school, after, work and so forth. Especially, I think, along and west of I-45 is where we're going to have the best chance of that. Hey, speaking of school, school's almost out. Got 2 weeks left of school. I know I've got 3. A lot of you, I'm sure, have kids in school as well. Maybe some of you are in school. I bet you there's some kids that are like skipping class right now just to tune in for Mondays with Mike. Now, okay, maybe not, but yeah, no, that wouldn't be a good idea. So we have a lot of exams going on this week. So I have like my big girls. I have one that already took AP World History, one that's going to take AP Psychology on Wednesday, I think. So that's a lot of pressure, when you've been doing this the whole year and then you've got this big exam and, if you pass it, you get college credit. If you don't pass it, it's like, you got to just give yourself a break, I guess. It is a lot of pressure on kids. A lot of pressure on kids who are, really trying to aim for the top. We had a story this morning that Matt Seedorf did, our reporter, and it was about depression among teenage boys. Depression among teenagers in general, we've done a lot of stories about that in recent years. But in recent months we have. Most of the focus, though, has been on teenage girls. And so Matt Seedorf, if you want to watch his story, if you're watching us on the website, I'm sure it's probably here on the landing page, on the homepage, because it's one of our top stories from yesterday, or on the app. But it was just a very good story because, It was a sort of like something nobody's been talking about, but it's a big issue. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a psychologist. I should ask my daughter since she's taking that AP Psych exam, but they said that rates of teen depression have gone up each of the last 10 years. And so you think, well, what else has happened each of the last 10 years? I mean, you think probably social media? I don't know, but I mean, it seems to be a correlation, between the use of, was Facebook, and then it was Instagram, and Snapchat is mixed in there too, and of course TikTok now, and who knows what's next. But I don't know. It just seems to be correlated with social media. I don't know if there's some other societal or political things that have been going on too. Obviously, we've had a lot of that. But, just you got to try and stay close to your kids, as close to your kids as you can, and ask them questions, try to know who their friends are. And, it's challenging. Being a parent is challenging. I mean, we're really lucky, really, really lucky with our kids. So, but I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I mean, it's something to think about. And like I said, shout out to Matt Seedorf. He did a really great story. I want to tell you something that happened to me over the weekend. This is another parenting story. It almost sounds like a story that I'm a fan of Bill Cosby's early albums. Obviously, I'm not a fan of what Bill Cosby... Let's not even talk about that. I'm talking about his stuff from the 60s. He had a lot of funny stories. And so he would tell stories about borrowing his dad's car and, returning it with no gas, and his dad forcing him to, walk through the snow or whatever with 25 cents to go fill up a can of gas and come back. Anyway, thought about this yesterday because my daughters borrowed the car, went to Starbucks to study, and then I get this sort of frantic series of text messages that the rear view mirror fell off my car. Now, I drive an older car because I'm frugal, So the rear view mirror just popped off. So I'm kind of on the other side of town. Well, I'm maybe 20 minutes away. I'm grocery shopping. I've got a cart filled with frozen food and stuff, So I got them on FaceTime and I said, okay. I said, can you get your sister to look out the back of the car and kind of act as your rear view mirror, and then you can back up, because you're only going to have to back up once, right? Just to get out of the space you're in, and then drive home safely. And if you can't see behind you, your sister can look. Well, my wife vetoed that. And, it was Mother's Day, so I wasn't going to argue with it. So we drop everything, right? Go over and meet them, and so we switched cars so that they could drive the good car, and I drove my car. So I'm driving along, because I guess there's a plug that goes into the rearview mirror, because it has the thing that you press to open the garage door and stuff like that. So talk about embarrassing. So I'm driving along, this rearview mirror is hanging by the wires, and it's just dangling the whole time as I'm driving. So the other drivers are looking at me like, okay, that doesn't look real impressive. And they're probably like, hey, isn't that the weather guy? What's up with his rear view mirror? And then my daughters are behind me, like mocking me, like they took a picture and sent it to the group chat, like LOL at daddy, So anyway, so now I'm faced with that. I have to, I don't know if anybody's ever done that before, but there's like a metal gadget you got to take out of the rearview mirror. And I have to super glue that to the windshield and then hope it sticks, and then slide the rearview mirror back on there. And I don't have very much confidence that that's going to work out very well. So I got that on my plate today. At the same time, I've got a weather forecast we have to deal with. Melissa Wilson has been hosting and championing her Children at Risk Melissa Wilson Golf Classic that's been going on now. I think this is the 23rd year. I'm not 100% sure. You know, Melissa and I started here at Fox 26 around the same time. I think she got here maybe a month before I did. I don't remember. A little bit before I did. But talk about hit the ground running. I mean, she came right on in, started a charity golf tournament, and it's been an annual tradition since then, raising money for the organization Children at Risk. Well, every year, because it's usually held in May, every year the weather is always real dicey, real iffy. There's either a line of storms coming in, or there were storms the night before, or, something like that. And so this year, no exception. We had tons of rain. It's in the woodlands. Tons of rain in the woodlands over the weekend. Everything is just absolutely soaking wet. And now it's like a muggy steam bath up there as they're getting ready for the tournament. And I thought we were home free, though. I told her, I said, hey, you're in good shape. And she says, well, the actual golf tournament doesn't start until 1 in the afternoon. It goes from 1 to 6. And so I said, oh, no, because that's sort of when the storms are expected to pop up. So, keep Melissa Wilson and her golf tournament in your thoughts today. Hopefully they can get it off, because they do raise a lot of money for her charity. So hopefully they'll be able to get that over with. Like I said, it's a beautiful morning, but the stage is set for some more heavy downpours later on in the day today. How much rain? Probably an additional 2 to 3 inches of rain possible out of some of the heavier downpours. And over the last 5 days, we've had more than 10 inches of rain fall in some locations. This is on top of the tons of rain that we had at the beginning of last week, even just going back over the last couple of weeks. So yeah, it's been rough going. So no worries of any drought around here anytime soon. Although it does remind us, May is actually the rainiest month for Houston. When you look at the entire year, May tends to be the month that we get the most rain. We've had some very famous, rain events during the month of May, Memorial Day rain and so forth. So it is definitely the time of the year for that. One last thing I wanted to share with you. Hurricane season begins on June 1st, yes. But, 7 out of the last 8 seasons, we have had a tropical system form in the month of May. We've had a pre-season tropical system. And I was looking at the GFS model, which is the American model, and the European model today, which I do this time of the year. I open it up and I look at the Atlantic and sort of just zip to the end, The Euro model will take us out 10 days, and then the GFS will go out 16 days. But I'm looking, I see on the GFS this low developing by the Bahamas and then off the east coast of the U.S. And at first I kind of dismissed it because the GFS always shows a storm. I mean, during hurricane season, it's like if you go out to day 16, there's always some giant hurricane on the model. That doesn't necessarily happen. But so I saw that and I said, you know what, it looks reasonable because it's in a location where we have storms form in May, which is usually off the east coast of the U.S. And what almost always forms a storm in May, well, one of two things. One would be a rogue area of low pressure in the eastern Atlantic Ocean. Like, some weird area, like over by the Azores or, over by the Iberian Peninsula, just somewhere like way out there where there will be a small low that forms. This one, though, is in a little bit more of a typical spot where cold fronts come off the east coast of the U.S., and if they become stationary and sit there over the Gulf Stream, which is warm water off the East Coast, they can spin up into a subtropical system, subtropical storm, or even sometimes a tropical storm or a depression. And the GFS is showing that coming up in about 7 to 10 days. So I switched over to the Euro, checked the Euro model, same thing. A little weaker, but it's also showing it. So don't be surprised if we end up with a tropical depression number 1, or maybe Tropical Storm Arlene, or maybe something like Subtropical Storm Arlene coming up at some point next week. Hurricane season is right around the corner, but really, recent years, that hurricane season tends to start in May. But we typically are not threatened until later on in the season. So anyway, that'll do it for today's Mondays with Mike. Glad I had the chance to step outside. Hope everybody's having a wonderful day. And watch out for some of those big storms later on this afternoon. See you next time.